Welcome to On Time in Full, a podcast from Designed Conveyor Systems.
Hello and welcome to On Time in Full. I'm your host today, Michelle Dawn Mooney. In this episode, we are taking a closer look at how business development in supply chain is changing, from transactional selling to building long-term value-driven partnerships. Joining us is Shawn Cavasos, Senior, who is the Senior Director of Sales Support Solutions and Growth at Designed Conveyor Systems. With deep experience across sales, engineering, and customer engagement, Shawn has seen firsthand how understanding a client's goals leads to more meaningful, successful partnerships. So we will explore how this shift is transforming how integrators, suppliers, and customers collaborate across the supply chain. Shawn, thank you so much for joining me today. Pleasure to have you here.
Thanks, Michelle. Great to be here.
Looking forward to getting into the conversation. Before we do that, however, can you give us a brief bio if you can?
Absolutely. Started back, I'm an Army officer, spent some time as a transportation logistics officer before transitioning into the civilian space. Spent 20 plus years inside the four walls of a fulfillment center, managing all of the tasks that takes. And then a short 15 years ago, moved to the integrator space, which now I'm serving with the DCS group out of Franklin, Tennessee, as you mentioned, in the role of Senior Director of Sales Support. Looking to build out the business development team and help orchestrate and improve collaboration between business development, sales, and the marketing group.
And we know that change is inevitable, and especially in this space. So to start us off, how have you seen business development evolve in the supply chain industry over the years?
I think traditionally business development was very transactional and a lot more focused on quoting and closing deals. And it was more about quantity maybe than quality. And today it's more about understanding the client's entire operation and helping them to reach longer term goals. We certainly have moved away from selling projects and that transactional things to a much more collaborative, long-term strategic partnership.
So I want to dive a little deeper there. What does selling solutions mean to you? And then how does that differ from building a long-term partnership?
You know, when I think about selling solutions, it's really about solving today's problem, something that you're looking to solve in the current state. And building partnerships means, you know, you're looking down the road. We're helping clients to look out well beyond today, 3 years, 5 years, and their future, and trying to help them scale and maybe adapt and grow to where they ultimately want to go. So beginning kind of the end in mind is something that I would say maybe is relates there. A sale is one is really a sell, and you know, we're looking at a shared journey when we talk about long-term partnerships.
I want to ask you, when it comes to engaging with clients, how do you uncover their true business goals versus their immediate project needs? Because I think there could be a gray area there, I'm sure. So how do you handle that?
Yeah, I think the key there is listening beyond the project scope, and one way to do that is asking the question why. Why are they looking to make whatever enhancement or change today, and the impact, because all of these decisions impact activities both upstream and downstream from maybe the current on-hand project scope, and get away from just asking what and focusing on what they've asked us for in today's conversation. And it's really understanding the impacts that maybe it has on strategy and longer term. We talked about earlier, the longer term strategy, the impact it has on their workforce, and then ultimately the impact it has on their customers.
So I want to ask you, how does DCS ensure that its sales approach aligns then with each customer's broader strategic objectives? And you kind of touched on that briefly, but there are technical requirements, of course, but how does DCS kind of look at the bigger picture here?
Yeah, I mean, our approach is really getting, it's not just the sales team that would be engaged. We would get sales, engineering, operations, several groups engaged early in the process so that so that we're able to get all of those questions answered and have different viewpoints on the table with the client's team as well. Typically, there's a team that we're engaging with from their side. And that collaboration early on keeps us aligned with what the customer's values are, the performance expectations, how scalable the solution that we're talking about really can be. Potential ROI calculations can be done early on, and really getting away from just the equipment, because it's much greater than just the equipment today.
Yeah, and more than just meeting the obvious needs, but as we've kind of referred to, building those partnerships and stronger relationships. So can you share an example of a time when a partnership first approach led to a stronger relationship or maybe a better outcome for a client?
Sure. I mean, there's lots of scenarios that we've come across, but in simplistic terms, we had a client come to us that was really just looking for a conveyor upgrade. They're looking to replace a section of conveyor in a portion of the building. It was old, outdated, couldn't get parts, that type of thing. And once we got in and really started digging into their business and understood what they were doing, where they were going, and the difficulties that they were facing, we were able to help design a scalable solution that didn't all go in today, but it was looking down the road, something that they could implement in a phase type approach, that would help automate the future state operation. So it turned a one-time conversation into a multi-year partnership, and a lot of folks are calling those transformation initiatives today, where multiple buildings are impacted across multiple technologies and automation providers. That's when it really gets exciting.
So what role does trust play in your work? And then how do you build that trust across complex, high stakes projects?
Yeah, that's an interesting point, Michelle. I believe trust is everything. Um, you know, we earn it through transparency. It doesn't just happen overnight. It's something that takes time. And part of that in conversations with clients is not only sharing what's possible, but also what's not, right? And standing behind our commitments to them. And transparency is critical. And ultimately, sometimes that means walking away. That happens where we're not able to meet their needs in the budget and or the time frame that they're looking for, and we're certainly not going to put their business at risk. Our reputation is on the line, and that's paramount to the DCS team. So I think when clients know that you're invested in their success and that you're not willing to put their business at risk, and it's not just a sell, that the trust will follow.
And as you mentioned before, there are a lot of moving parts here. And, one answer in particular you talked about, it's not just this group of people who are going to be involved with that. We have a lot of people from the company who will be taking part in decision-making and strategy there. So collaboration across teams is critical. How do sales, engineering, and operation at DCS work together in order to deliver on client promises?
I think it's simple. It's getting involved early and breaking down those silos early, and having all of those teams express their concerns, their aspirations, their desires, early in the process. And so doing that from day one, I think, is critical. What we sell, it will ensure that what we sell, we can actually deliver. And I've been a part of teams where a lot of times, the sales group is doing their thing, and then once the sell is made, then they bring in the solutions or the engineers or the additional folks to help support that effort after the fact. Not a good idea in today's complex world to do that. So getting folks involved earlier will help ensure that what we sell we can deliver, and what we deliver actually meet and exceed the customer's expectations.
We are seeing such a fast pace of how technology is changing. So as automation and orchestration technology continue to advance, how has that changed your conversations now that you're having with your customers?
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, it's less about the hardware now and more about data, visibility in the systems, and then that orchestration. Um, Clients want systems that adapt in real time based on the varying demands of hour to hour, minute to minute. So our conversations are increasingly strategic and not far beyond the technical. Although technical is still important when you're assessing various technologies to support the business. One key question that we ask early in the process is, what are we solving for, and making sure that we understand clearly, what we're solving for and what the ask is, and trying to dig down a little deeper, maybe with that why, and then ultimately let the data drive the solution design alternatives.
If you have business development professionals out there listening who are still operating in a more transactional way, what's the first step towards becoming a true strategic partner?
I think listening. I think maybe start by listening differently. Ask questions that go well beyond the project that maybe you're there addressing at that time. Ask about growth plans. Ask about current operational challenges, bottlenecks, constraints, within the current operation, um, customer demands and expectations are everything. So that's something that I think is critical to understand as well. And that's what's helped me and our teams move from just being a vendor to much more of a long-term strategic partner.
You talked about ever changing, and that's definitely true. We talked about it's just inevitable. Everything is changing. So I want to kind of have you look at the future for a minute. How do you see the role of business development evolving as customer expectations and supply chain complexity continue to grow?
Sure. Very, very different than days in the past. I think BD, business development, becomes much more analytical and much more consultative. I think, with the systems that we have in play today, we have access to industry insight, market intelligence, and a lot of data to help predict the needs and shape strategy for clients and customers, or potential clients and customers. So I think there's a lot. We're moving really away from the RFP type work, and becoming much more strategic. And I think the best teams, the best business development teams, will act as an extension of the client's business going forward.
We covered a lot of territory here, Shawn. Time is almost up. Any final thoughts before we close this out?
I think it's going to be a fun ride. It already has started. The explosion of technology and automation in the marketplace has certainly changed the landscape, and it's much more of it's a marathon. It's not a sprint any longer. It's not just responding to the ask at hand with the technology. It's really you need to start with understanding your client's business, and then help them assess and be a resource. Be a resource for them even when there's not a project.
Absolutely. I want to thank you, Shawn, for joining us. And Shawn is the Senior Director of Sales Support Solutions and Growth for Design Conveyor Systems. Appreciate your time here today, Shawn. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. Great to be with you.
And of course, if you'd like more information or have any questions, you can always visit designconveyor.com. I've been your host, Michelle Dawn Mooney. Thanks again for joining us. We hope to connect with you on another podcast soon.